We're going to do that after. Not yet. Hi, everyone. All right. So I'm going to have to use the gavel now. I apologize. We're going to have to get this meeting started. Sorry about that. It's a fun time today. Good morning and welcome to the Vancouver City Council meeting of Tuesday, February the 3rd, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and by electronic means. Council members and the public may participate by either method. Any members joining electronically are reminded to enable video to confirm quorum. This meeting is being live streamed on the city's website and YouTube, and meeting progress will be updated regularly on X at Van City Clerk. Now, in case of an emergency where we have to evacuate the chamber, please go through the glass doors and take a left at the pillar and walk down the stairs. If for whatever reason that door is obstructed, please, pay attention or direct your attention to the 4 doors on the side of this chamber. If anyone needs accessibility assistance, just please stay in place and one of our super friendly team members will come by and give you a hand safely out of the building. Also, if anyone requires a defibrillator, there is one at the end of the hallway, just outside the chamber. Now, I do want to acknowledge that we are hosting today's council meeting on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and I do want to thank them for their generosity and hospitality and the love and care they show this great land that we get to live, work, and play on. I also want to acknowledge the incredible contributions of all of our team members throughout the city of Vancouver. We get to see them in action every single day, and I can tell you we're so fortunate to have people that really care, that are giving it their all to build the city with love to make it a better place for all of us. And so on that, can we please get a roll call?
Mayor Simon, the chair. Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly. Councillor Fry. Councillor Montague.
Present.
Councillor Klassen. Councillor Meisner.
Present.
Councillor Joe.
Present.
Councillor Orr. And Councillor Maloney.
Great, thank you very much. So we're gathered here today to honor and celebrate Black History Month. Since 2011, the city has dedicated this month to recognizing the rich history, culture, and achievements of the Black and African communities. This recognition is more than a celebration. It reflects the city's ongoing commitment to reconciliation and building stronger, more meaningful relationships with these communities. Black History Month also invites us to acknowledge the ongoing realities of systemic discrimination while honoring the enduring contributions of Black leaders, innovators, and change makers, past and present. It's a time to reaffirm our shared commitment to equity, inclusion, and lasting progress. Accepting the proclamation is Yaimel, is that right? Lopez Zaldivar. Yaimel is Cuban-born, a Vancouver-based multimedia artist whose bold, story-driven work spans illustration, painting, printmaking, mixed media, and animation. His vibrant use of color and distinct visual language reflect diverse communities and shared human experiences. His work has been exhibited internationally, including at the Vancouver Art Gallery and the Seymour Art Gallery, and featured in numerous publications. A committed educator and community collaborator, Yaimel brings art into accessible spaces and is currently exploring animation, including a recent film project in the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center. He also created a visual identity for the City of Vancouver's anti-Black racism work, featured on Black History Month signage at City Hall and the city's anti-Black racism response and redress website. So what I'd like to do is invite all of my teammates on council to read a proclamation to celebrate Black History Month. So before we get started with reading the proclamation with my teammates, I do want to share a personal story, personal experience. And I've told the story before, but I think it's worth repeating, and we have to keep repeating this story. So this story actually isn't about me. Well, it is, but the intent is not to be about me. I remember, you know, when my wife and I got together, we're building a life together. We started out uh, like not very much, and we worked really hard. And we got to the point where we were able to save up a bit of a down payment, and through the help of family, we were able to get the rest of the down payment, and we got a really big. It seemed like a massive mortgage at the time on this little house that was built in 1923, and we were super excited. We're living that Canadian dream, and I remember when we got to the point where the real estate agent actually was about over. We're fortunate enough to get a place. And she was really embarrassed. And she said, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to give you the deed to your house. And the deed, there was a clause in it that said, this property shall not be transferred to Negroes or Orientals. And so I repeat that story because they still haven't changed the deed to that property. And when we talk about systemic racism, when we talk about marginalized communities, it is real. And it's all these little subtle things that do hurt, but it also holds communities back. And so days like this, proclamations like this are incredibly important. And we have a responsibility as a city council to make sure that we never shy away from this and we celebrate it, and it's coming from the heart, because we're building a great city that's inclusive for everyone. And so with that, actually, before I read a proclamation, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Pete if he wanted to say a few words as well.
Oh, well, okay. Catching me a little bit by surprise, but it is always an honor to celebrate Black History Month and start it off right in February. And the commitments from the city of Vancouver are real and tangible, and we have so much learning to do. And as some of you will know, I come from a Anglo-Trinidadian background, and my roots are deeply ingrained in Trinidadian culture. And one of the wonderful things about Trinidad and Tobago and many of the West Indian Islands is this shared commonality of diasporic peoples who are, rooted in colonialism, but have found and embraced a culture of their own that transcends so much of this. And as we talk about Black History Month and we talk about the history of colonialism and how, for better and in many cases for worse, colonialism has shaped the reality that we know here in this country, in North America, the roots that are so painful to acknowledge, but that we are here today as a result of that pain. It's very sobering, I think, and very, very tangible to recognize that in fact, this is an important acknowledgement, and it's a history that we all share, and it transcends, I think, a lot of the binaries that will often dictate how we reflect. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging that painful history of overt racism in our city in current and recent memory.
Awesome. So with that, why don't we,
Proclamation for Black History Month. Whereas the City of Vancouver has been celebrating Black History Month since 2011 by honouring the legacy of Black and African Canadians, we dedicate February to celebrating the rich history and robust achievements of Black and African diaspora communities in Vancouver and Canada.
And whereas the city of Vancouver acknowledged that it is situated on the unceded traditional territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and we recognize the long historical relationship between Indigenous and Black and African diaspora communities in Canada.
And whereas this year's theme for the 30th Canadian year of Black History Month is honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries.
And whereas the city acknowledges the various ways Black and African diaspora communities have contributed to cultural, economic, political, and social tapestry of our city since the first 800 free Blacks, in quotes, arrived in Vancouver from San Francisco in 1858, and similarly shaped the origins of Vancouver since it became a city in 1886.
And whereas the city has a strong commitment to fostering a diverse and inclusive society by delivering on actions that address anti-Black racism and redress the effects of historical segregation, slavery, colonization, and discrimination, including social, economic, and cultural impacts.
And whereas for this year's Black History Month, the city will be sharing findings from a historical research project on the experiences of the Black and African diaspora communities in Vancouver and showcasing their inspiring work of 3 Black nonprofit organizations that are shaping the future of this city.
Now, therefore, I, Ken Sim, the Mayor of the City of Vancouver, on behalf of everyone on council, all our elected officials, and everyone who chooses to work at the City of Vancouver every single day, do very humbly and proudly proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black History Month in the City of Vancouver. Does Yaimel say a few words?
Thank you. I'm still processing this. This is big. I mean, I'm from Cuba. I was born in Cuba. Came to Canada, 8 years ago. The last I was expecting it's like 8 years that I was receiving this as a representation of entire community. I'm still like in shock. So sorry if I don't really connect ideas. This is big for me. Hopefully, this work really represent the community. Give proud to the community. It's my intention. Hope keep doing the same. Keep working for the community. Doing the best I can. Bring people together. Yeah, I'm here for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here, one. Oh, you can come right in.
Yeah, come in.
Right in the middle.
No, don't leave it there. Hello, hello, everybody. And whereas we, the members of the Advisory Council, congratulate the members of the Chamber and the Vancouver City here, and the Council for acknowledging us, working with us, and helping us to be at this point that we are recognized. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and your team.
Everyone, if we could shift for photos to outside the chamber, please, so we could continue the meeting.
Welcome to TELUS Conferencing.
All right, sorry for the delay. I'll keep going on with the plan. We're having some technical difficulties, so I'll continue until the clerk tells we have to stop for a matter of procedure. Okay. Okay, so the plan for today, we're going to break at noon for lunch, followed by the in-camera meeting. Return at 3 p.m. to continue to deal with the remainder of the agenda. Adjourn or recess by 5 p.m. as we have a public hearing at 6 p.m. If we recess, the reconvene date is Tuesday, February the 10th at 3 p.m. In camera, council is required to meet in camera later this week. The reasons and authority under the Vancouver Order are listed in the agenda. Would someone like to move a motion to go in camera later on this week? Thank you, Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Klassen. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 1 are from the public hearing on January the 13th, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Great, thank you, Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Dominato. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 2 are from the public hearing on January the 15th, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Someone like to move? Councillor Meisner, thank you. Councillor Klassen, seconded. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 3 are from the council meeting on January the 20th, 2026. Are there any corrections? Someone like to move? Councillor Klassen, Councillor Joe, seconded. Thank you. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Minutes 4 are from the council meeting following the Standing Committee on Policy and Strategic Priorities on January the 21st, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Would someone like to move? Councillor Klassen, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kirby-Young. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Okay. Matters adopted on consent. Council will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have communication 1, reports 2, 3, and 4, and referral reports 1 through 21 on the consent agenda for council's consideration. We will hold report number to hear from speakers. Council may adopt the recommendations for communication 1, reports 1, 2, 3, 4, and referral reports. Hold on a second. So I'll repeat that again. Council may adopt the recommendations for communication 1 and reports 2, 3, and 4, and referral reports 1 through 21 on consent. Does any member wish to hold any of the items for debate or questions to team members? Councillor Dominato.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to hold referral report 1, City of Vancouver Official Development Plan for procedural questions.
Okay, so that's referral report number 1, City of Vancouver official.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to hold referral report 16, 2028 to 2038 Barclay Street also for procedural questions.
Sorry, number 16 that was?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Klassen.
Thanks, Mayor. My question was going to be about report 16, so I'll go off the queue.
Thank you. Councillor Orr.
Yeah, can I hold referral report number 5, Text Amendment and Gaming Control Act approval, 3965 Smythe Street.
Okay, so that's referral report number 5. Thank you. Okay. Before we consider the consent agenda, if anyone believes that they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anybody wish to declare a conflict of interest? Okay. Okay. We have communication number 1, reports number 2, 3, and 4. Is that right? It reports 2, 3, and 4, and refer reports 2 through 21, excluding number 5 and number 16. And just to confirm, do you have to read them all out? I know, but I said 2 through 21, so. Yeah. But for greater clarity, referral reports 1 through 21, excluding 1, 5, and 16. Is that good? Okay, awesome. Thank you, and thank you for flagging the potential problem. Would someone like to move adoption of the recommendations before council? Great, so I think that was moved by Councillor Dominato, seconded by Councillor Klassen. Thank you. All those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, so the following have been approved on consent. Communication number 1, changes to the 2026 council meeting schedule. Report number 2, funding application to Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding Program. Report number 3, housing accelerator funding for the development of social housing at 3122 Southeast Marine Drive. And report number 4, non-market housing lease extension with Vancouver Resource Society for 4096 Carolina Street. Then we have referral report number 2, CD-1 rezoning, I-1030 through 1070 East Hastings Street, double I, 1115 through 1127 East Hastings Street and 360 Glen Street, and triple I, 1168 through 1182 East Hastings Street. Then we have report number 3, CD-1 rezoning 1470 through 1476 West Broadway. Report number 4, CD-1 rezoning 466 through 476 West 27th Avenue. Then we jump to report number 6, CD-1 rezoning 2268 through 2294 West 3rd Avenue and 1902 through 1912 Vine Street. Report number 7, CD-1 899 text amendment 3360 through 3384 Vanessa Avenue and 3347 Clive Avenue. Report number 8, CD-1 893 text amendment 325 through 343 West 41st Avenue and 5696 Alberta Street. Report number 9, CD-1 878 text amendment 357 through 475 West 41st Avenue. Report number 10, CD-1 rezoning 453 through 461 East 10th Avenue and 2536 through 2542 Guelph Street. CD-1 rezoning, number 11, CD-1 rezoning 2202 through 2212 West 10th Avenue and 2221 Marstrand Avenue. Report number 12, CD-1 rezoning 2219 through 2285 Canby Street. Report number 13, CD-1 915 text amendment 450 through 496 Prior Street, 550 Malkin Avenue and 1002 Station. Report number 14, CD-1 rezoning 441 East Pender Street. Report number 15, CD-1 amendment, CD-1 566 East Fraserlands Town Square Precinct, 3575 Sawmill Crescent and CD-1 567 East Fraserlands Waterfront Precinct, 8711 River District Crossing and 3522 East Kent Avenue South. Then we jump to report number 17, CD-1 rezoning 3295 through 3333 Commercial Drive. Report number 18, CD-1 rezoning 3553 through 3563 East Hastings Street. Report number 19, CD-1 rezoning 4911 through 5255 Heather Street, 637 through 657 West 37th Avenue, and 620 through 689 West 35th Avenue, Heatherlands. Report number 20, CD-1 843, text amendment 888 West Broadway, formerly 878 through 898 West Broadway. Report number 21, CD-1 rezoning 816 through 860 West 13th Avenue and 2915 through 2925 Willow Street. Looks like we're gonna have a busy spring. Okay, communication. Oh, we don't have to do that. Okay, so I guess the first item of business, are we allowed to proceed with report number 1? Okay, reports. So the first report we have on the docket is report number 1, Healthy City Strategy 2026 Framework and Implementation Update. Now, before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes that they have a conflict of interest, now's the time to declare it. Any conflicts? Seeing no hands, we're just going to go straight to the presentation. We do have team members here to present the item. Great.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Margaret Witkins. I'm the General Manager for Arts, Culture, and Community Services. And we're very pleased to be here today to report back on Council's 2024 direction to refresh the Healthy City Strategy, the city's strategic framework to advance health and well-being for all. This work was undertaken in partnership with Vancouver Coastal Health, and we are joined today by Dr. Mark Lysician.
Margaret, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to pause.
Sure
We
thing.
do have technical difficulties, so the audience online, they can't see the presentation. So
Okay,
should we take a 5-minute recess to see if we can get that better? Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that.
no worries.
For everyone that's participating online and in this chamber here, we think we have a workaround, but it will take us to at least 30. So if everyone, we'll give you the gift of time back, and we'll see you online and in this chamber at 10:30 if you so choose. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Council. Great, thank you. Okay. Councillor, we're gonna get started. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So due to technical issues, the presentation for Report 1 is not able to be broadcast for the public on the live stream. Members of the public can still hear the presentation on the live stream and view the presentation by accessing the City's Council meeting agenda webpage. In addition, once the presentation is concluded, members of the public are able to view the video of the meeting. This information is also available on X at Van's Clerk. For council members, please follow along with the emailed PDF of the presentation or on Teams. Staff presenting will announce the slide number as they proceed. So hopefully that is a lot more clear. Margaret, if I can please ask you to start your presentation all over again, if that's okay.
Of course, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Margaret Witkins, General Manager, Arts, Culture, Community Services. Very pleased to be here today to report back on the 2024 Council direction to refresh the Healthy City Strategy. This is the city's strategic framework to advance health and well-being for all. This work was undertaken in partnership with Vancouver Coastal Health, and we're very glad that Dr. Mark Lysician, Medical Health Officer, is here with us today to speak to how the Healthy City Strategy fits within VCH's work. If approved by Council today, the refresh will build on the previous strategy. It will update to reflect current priorities, as well as more clearly define the role of the city and establish a consistent reporting cycle. I will now pass to Peter Marriott, the Senior Planner on this file, to walk us through the key components. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Margaret, and good morning, Mayor and Council, and thanks for the opportunity to present this report. For those online, we are moving to slide 2. And starting by grounding this strategy and this work in place and the local context that we're on, including Vancouver's position on the unceded homelands of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. This acknowledgement is obviously part of how we do business and how we opened the meeting, and it also reflects the conversations we had during the refresh process of the interconnections between the health of individual people, of the communities that we're part of, and the lands and waters that we're situated on. And so it's a lens and a perspective that we intend to infuse throughout the strategy. On slide 3, we're presenting 2 recommendations to Council for consideration today. The first recommendation is to adopt the refreshed Healthy City Strategy framework and goals as outlined in the report, and to advance implementation through existing work programs across the city. So this isn't creating necessarily new work or making a financial outlay, but it's offering a framework to align and prioritize work under the determinants of health across the city. And then recommendation B is to establish an annual reporting cycle. This is a change from the previous generation of the strategy, and the intention of this recommendation, if Council supports it, is to create a regular touch point for Council to receive information and make decisions about the city's contribution to health and well-being in Vancouver. On slide 4, as Margaret alluded to, this is a response to a direction that Council gave in May 2024, which set out the scope and timeline of this refresh. It included building on the strengths of the existing strategy that was adopted back in 2014 with an action plan in 2015, responding to feedback from a formal evaluation process, as well as just the changing context of social issues and social development work across the city, and to engage key partners in a contained and tightly scoped engagement process to hear feedback from a number of key sectors. So we'll speak about how that's played out in a few slides. It also builds on other direction that Council has given, including this being a priority in the Vibrant Vancouver actions for the current Council term, Council's support of some work with the United Nations on prototyping measures of quality of life, and an outstanding member motion from Council from 2020 to explore alignment with the Global Sustainable Development Goals. And so Council will see how those specific motions have flowed into the strategy document as well. But our main focus today is the scope of the engagement process and refresh tactics that we took to bring the strategy to you today. On slide 5, we're also framing this work in the context of what does the city do for health and well-being. And I think it's easy to start with what local governments don't do, which is the scale of social services and programs and income supports that are offered by provincial governments, programs like schools and our education and healthcare system sit within other levels of government. But the city has a significant influence in its core functions around land use, infrastructure, transportation planning, providing local services and programs, its role as a regulator for businesses and for buildings, to promote health, safety, and economic vibrancy. And the city has a really important role as a convener and facilitator and the body of government that's closest to the urban experience of the people who live here, and to work very closely with partners and other levels of government to prioritize the well-being of Vancouver residents, visitors, and everyone who interacts with the city. And so the city's contribution to health fits within its core municipal mandate, while recognizing that many of the larger systems that influence health are held within other governments. And slide 6, as directed by Council in 2014, the Healthy City Strategy also serves as Vancouver's overall social development and social sustainability plan. And in this context, it aligns and contributes to approaches that are taken by municipalities across our context. We've provided on the slide a few visual examples of social plans in other cities in Metro Vancouver. But in that scope, what it means is that it offers us a container for focusing the city's contributions across a wide range of social policy issues using a wide range of tactics. It creates a framework for monitoring, metrics, reporting, and using data to provide evidence-informed decisions. It includes our strong partnership with Vancouver Coastal Health. And as a sustainability plan, it's grounded in the idea and the decisions that Council has made over the course of many years to prioritize the needs of residents today while not losing sight of the needs of future generations and future people who will interact with the city. So all of those slides are our kind of starting framework for how this work fits into the city's policy ecosystem and the recommendations that are being placed to Council today. I'll now pass to Dr. Mark Lizician to speak about Vancouver Coastal Health and the relationship between the Health Authority and local government.
All right, thank you, Peter. So yeah, I'm Dr. Mark Lizician. I'm Deputy Chief Medical Health Officer with Vancouver Coastal Health, but also one of the 4 medical health officers assigned to City of Vancouver. So you may also see Dr. Brandon Yao, Dr. Althea Hayden, and Dr. Michael Schwant helping work with city staff or speaking to you at Council. You may also see our Chief Medical Health Officer, Patty Daly, who can act as a Vancouver Medical Health Officer as well. But we're appointed under the Public Health Act, and it requires us to advise local governments on public health issues, bylaws, policies, and the Public Health Act also requires local governments to consider our advice. But we understand that you have many considerations when you're making policy. We try to bring evidence around the health impacts of policy decisions. We try to collaborate with other sectors and partners. We try to advocate for healthy public policy. We try to communicate to elected officials, but also to the public about the impacts of policies. And then, we try to contribute to your planning efforts. Okay, I'm not advancing this correctly. Here. All right. And so, I'm happy to represent Vancouver Coastal Health here. And as Peter described, we have a lot of control over the healthcare system. But the healthcare system really treats people when they're ill mostly. And so our goal in public health is to prevent illness, to prevent injury. And in order to do that, we have to make communities healthier, both the socioeconomic kind of environment and the physical environment. And these are areas that municipal governments have some control over. But as Peter mentioned, the provincial government, the federal government, they also have a lot of control over this. So we try to work on these determinants of health through healthy public policy. On individual motions that you might be passing here, we either work with the staff or maybe we speak directly in council. But we also try to take a health in all policy approach. And that's sort of what this strategy is. This is sort of acknowledging that a lot of the policy that the city passes does have an impact on health. And it's an opportunity to improve the health of the population by sort of doing it in the right way. We also try to support vulnerable populations who we know have worse health outcomes and are facing health inequities. We do this across the region with all the municipalities, the 12 municipalities in our region, the 4 regional districts, the First Nations communities. We also work with the provincial government, the federal government, and other public health partners to kind of advance this work across Canada. So we're very happy about this strategy and happy to be part of it in an ongoing way as well. So thank you.
Yeah, so thanks, Mark. And we're now resuming with slide 9 on the presentation slides. So this slide, we speak to what the engagement process has looked like since Council gave direction in May 2024. And as set out in the report at the time, this was a very focused engagement, not a broad public process. But what staff attempted to do was to connect with the sectors that we thought represented a good cross-section of folks who are engaged in different parts of the Healthy City strategy, and to be able to take stock of what successes and challenges occurred in the first generation of the strategy and where there were opportunities to update. And so this included community, social, and business sectors, focused engagement on Indigenous organizations and organizations within the Downtown East Side, great contributions and very thoughtful conversations with many of our civic agencies and advisory committees, lots of internal engagement with city and coastal health staff, as well as the opportunity for individual members of council to give feedback through interviews. The engagement process is laid out in an appendix to the report in quite a bit of detail, but the top line takeaways are strong support across the board and the cross-section of folks we engaged with. For the city having a policy that focuses on health and well-being, and to build on and update the strategy as it existed from the previous version. The strong need, as folks have alluded to throughout the day, to update and clarify the roles of the city, and to work toward this idea of regularizing communication and reporting on metrics, so that the strategy isn't just a single thing that's adopted at a point in time, but something that has the opportunity to contribute to council decision making and policy over its duration. On slide 10, we lay out some of the specific recommendations that are in the refresh strategy and attached to the report. A lot of the shape and structure and sort of approach that's taken is carried forward from the previous strategy, reflecting the feedback received in the engagement process, as well as past evaluation work that has seen this as a strength of Vancouver's approach. This includes a central vision of being healthy, of encompassing everyone in the city and giving the best possible opportunity for well-being. A broad range of goal areas reflecting, as Dr. Lazishin alluded to, the social determinants of health, and a strong collaborative approach that recognizes the city has an influence and an interest in maximizing the health of the population, but not necessarily the scope or jurisdiction as a local government to tackle all the systems that enable it. Some of the recommendations for updates to the strategy that are presented in this report are the addition of lenses reflecting city's core commitments to reconciliation, equity, and accessibility, numerous updates to the goals, and we'll walk through a couple of highlights to reflect current council priorities, refined efforts to define the city's scope and role in each of the goal areas. So you'll see a preliminary sketch of that in the report today, and implementation work will focus on defining that further, and this idea of regular reporting and metrics. Looking on slide 11, with examples of the many types of contributions that the city as local government makes to health. This includes building infrastructure, which has a direct link in the example of public plazas to enabling belonging and connection across the city and a sense of community in neighborhoods across the city. In land use policy, council will consider the referral of the ODP later today, and there's a significant opportunity in the work that's planned to build complete communities that include amenities, infrastructure, services that meet daily needs in all parts of the city, which is very aligned with health and well-being. Lots of direct services. We've included library programs on the slide as just one of many examples of work where the city does provide local services that have a huge health impact. Strong partnerships, council's direction on enhanced mental health supports, and working with Vancouver Coastal Health to address some of the urgent challenges related to mental health and substance use fits into there. Plenty of research, including recent work that was completed on neighborhood resilience and disaster preparedness across the city, and funding, especially through our social policy grants program, which allocates funds to community organizations that make impacts on all of the goals proposed in the strategy. On slide 12, we'll look at 3 specific examples of the updated goals that are recommended to council today. So first is community safety, where responding to significant feedback during the engagement process, we've broken safety out as a standalone determinant of health and a container for work across a wide range of policy areas. So this includes the city's core public safety services, which Council has supported, working with organizations that promote community safety through grants and partnerships, engaging equity-denied communities to address systemic barriers. So the proclamation and the work that the city is undertaking around anti-Black racism responses is a great example of that. And creating and managing public spaces that are safe, inclusive, and accessible. So delivering a vibrant and connected city that also considers the safety needs that all parts of the community may experience in public spaces. Another example of an updated goal is the one that we've titled Good Health Throughout Life. So this is an extension and a broadening of the scope in the previous strategy, where we had a very intentional focus on child and youth development. That is still there, but we've also expanded this to recognize the transitions that people experience across the life course, and particularly Council's efforts on the needs of aging and older persons, and recognizing that these determinants of health are all very, very connected to each other. So examples of how the city contributes in this goal includes, again, direct services through community centers and libraries, the city's significant work to enable childcare through planning and development processes, granting programs and convening for a wide range of place-based and age-focused organizations across the city, planning for age-inclusive communities, including the success in the older person strategic framework recently, and continued convening and engaging sectors around development, such as Council has directed in the Building Safer Communities program and our work on youth safety and violence prevention. And the final example, though Council is also welcome to ask questions about the other 9 goals, is this belonging and connection goal, which is a key theme that flows through Council's priorities in Vibrant Vancouver, and significant work on public spaces and building community across the city. And so the city's contributions are enabling a culture of public engagement, civic participation, and efficacy in decision-making. Again, significant programs and services. Our work in land use planning to identify and where possible, protect spaces that are used for community events and gathering and convening. Significant work on public spaces and festivals, and there's a range of council motions that have advanced work in this area. And building partnerships with community services that build connection. Some of us had the opportunity actually yesterday to engage with South Vancouver Neighborhood House as an example of council-directed work that is helping to build community across the city. So taken together, this is, also a strategy that recognizes that there is a lot of work that is already happening across the organization, and the city has no shortage of strategies. And so the hope on slide 15, we have a visual metaphor of an umbrella, is that by updating and renewing the Healthy City strategy, if Council adopts the recommendations, what that offers is a tool to map the existing actions and targets that are taken all across this range of strategies and align them into a common framework around the determinants of health. And should Council adopt recommendation B, as an annual reporting cycle is established, the goal would be to enable Council to make evidence-informed decisions about the level of city effort in each of the goal areas, and to review an annual report on trends in the determinants of health across the city. As a significant step in the implementation and governance of the strategy, we have a long-standing now memorandum of understanding with Vancouver Coastal Health, and staff would look to update that to reflect the decision and priorities that Council sets today. Slide 16 provides an illustration of some of the types of data that can be brought into the strategy and become part of this reporting cycle. So we were lucky in the original strategy with support from partnerships, including the Partnership for Healthy Cities, to be able to build infrastructure for an online dashboard. And our goal would be to grow and expand that in the revised strategy. And the city has been able to leverage a number of partnerships to access especially very localized and population-specific data to understand the determinants of health in a strong way. And we benefit as well from the very strong team at Vancouver Coastal Health and their public health surveillance unit to build our repository of indicators and metrics that can be used to inform decision-making. In the updated strategy, the focus will shift a little bit to be measuring what the city's role and contribution is. And so I would say, have a very well-developed program in terms of overall outcomes and broad determinants of health, but still some work to do to measure the direct impacts of city decisions. But if Council adopts the report today, that is a focus of work for the next year. And finally, to integrate some of the frameworks and benchmarks that Council has supported, including the 2020 motion on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And the slide on slide 16 provides a visual example of some of the benchmarking we've done as part of the UN Quality of Life Initiative, which maps onto a number of the goals that are proposed in the report today and provides an early example of how the city might start to benchmark itself against global measures of well-being and quality of life. Slide 17, this is a slightly enhanced version of the graphic that appears in the council report, is providing a visual just expression of how council's priorities as expressed in Vibrant Vancouver map very thoroughly onto the goals that are proposed in the Healthy City Strategy. And, again, reflecting that council has already set this direction and made these decisions. We're not proposing a set of new actions or priorities for the duration of this term, but want to build a container in which this can be reported as a significant contribution to the health and well-being of people in Vancouver. In slide 18, there's a similar exercise of looking at the existing strategies that exist across the city and starting to build the mapping relationships so that the reporting cycle, once established, can draw on a significant amount of work that the council has already approved and directed, and we can start to bring this together in a more cohesive way for reporting. So the final slide, slide 19, offers a summary. The Healthy City Strategy, as proposed to Council today, is intended to focus the city's role on enabling health while acknowledging the contributions of other levels of government and community partners. If Council approves the recommendations that are laid out, implementation, especially in the next cycle, will focus on integrating metrics and actions within existing programs and create an annual reporting cycle that increases opportunities for evidence-informed decisions around how the city prioritizes health and well-being across its work. So with that, I'll say thank you, and staff are happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive presentation. Council, you have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of team members. Councillor Bly, you're up.
Thanks very much, and appreciate all the work that's gone into this in the consultation and meetings with councillors in the broad community. So just to sort of recognize that those efforts, and great presentation. I just so I had a question around well, I have a lot of questions, so let me just organize my thoughts for a second. So I noted that, well, my question is, when this was first introduced in 2013 as a strategy, was it funded work that was like separate, or has it always sort of been sort of like intersectional work that?
Yeah, the strategy as a whole has been broadly integrated into kind of core work programs. In the original strategy, there was a decision in, I think, 2016 to allocate some innovation funding, which was available at the time to support implementation of a few specific actions. But the intention throughout has been that the core sort of stewardship and reporting on the strategy is integrated into core social planning work.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I understand that there is, and if Mark or somebody from Vancouver Coastal Health, it would be great to ask a question related to both. There's two things in terms of how does Vancouver perform as a city from a health metrics standard compared to the rest of the province? Do you have that data?
Yeah, I mean, in general, Vancouver does very well in terms of overall health and well-being metrics, but there are, I guess, significant inequities within the population of Vancouver. So some people very healthy, and then other people not as healthy. And so, I think everyone's familiar with that. So that's still a challenge for Vancouver, I would say, is sort of bringing everybody up to that same standard of health.
Well, that was definitely my part two question. So that you sort of probably read was coming was more of the disparity. And do we have a sense of income inequality and how that sort of overlaid with health outcomes, what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, income inequality has a powerful impact on health, both on the people who are obviously on the lower end of the spectrum, but actually on the entire population. And we see that in societies that are more unequal, we see higher rates of problems like mental illness, like addiction, like violence, and problems like that. And so, so I think we see that play out in Vancouver, in the downtown east side. That inequality sort of creates the condition that or the conditions that people develop those types of problems.
Okay, thank you very much. There was an MOU signed in 2013, and the city has done obviously a lot of recent work in the last 2 or 3 years. And the MOU is referenced in the report. But in the last 2 or 3 years, is it time to update that MOU so we have it clear? And I just think like we've just had a safe consumption site closed, the last one outside of the Down East Side. It just strikes me that while we're talking about this here, only a couple days ago, something was closed that is under the mandate of Vancouver Coastal Health. And I just wonder if there's an opportunity here to establish an updated MOU and get clear on our shared priorities.
Yeah, so that's definitely a priority in the implementation stage. So if council approves the recommendations today, that's a very shortly planned piece of work is to update
Sorry,
the
I
MOU.
missed the timeline on that. Could you?
Within this year, basically.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry, I missed that timing. That's excellent. And I just wondered around the Vancouver plan, and I look at the page 29 of the report in one of the appendices, and it's interesting that the Vancouver plan looks like the best performing plan that's on its way in terms of achieving many of the goals. It's up there with UNDRIP in terms of the individual goals. But then I look at sort of Vancouver food strategy, for example, and it only checks one box in food systems. And when I actually look at the goals, I think, a food strategy ought to achieve good health throughout life. It ought to achieve, care and support networks, income and economy. It ought to achieve active living. So how do we not check more boxes with something as sort of necessary as food access in a food strategy?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, this graphic in particular was the subject of a lot of back and forth about that. So what's in the report is a very high level, sort of single focus of
I'm sorry, we're at time.
But yeah, it's
Councillor
all
Kirby-Young?
connected.
Councillor Kirby-Young?
Sorry.
Can we restart the timer, please?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor. I appreciate the work on this, and I appreciate, just to grab my question, I appreciate the acknowledgement around really delineating, zeroing in on the partnership and delineating on sort of the city's best ability to influence kind of within our piece of the puzzle, so to speak, in our jurisdiction. I wonder if you can comment a bit more. The references are pretty oblique, and I was surprised that we didn't see more explicit references to things like parks and recreation. I know that community centers are mentioned peripherally a couple of times in terms of programs, but I'm thinking around access to nature and green space, swimming pools, rec centers, the affordability of recreation, all of those components, which I think has been a big part of why people love Vancouver, but it's something that's real well within it. Even the example of infrastructure used was public plazas. We didn't hear about things like renovating and extending facilities. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the park board staff have been engaged throughout, and I think there's certainly an intention to acknowledge at a staff level the significant contributions that parks make, and so all of the examples you've given around levels of access to space, proximity to parks, tree canopy cover are all access to nature, experiences of sort of connection with the outdoors are all intended to be in the mix, and so it's not.
Are we not being more explicit with it because we have a separate park board and a council, even though it's a healthy city strategy and people don't sort of delineate that?
Yeah, I mean
and just finishing that question, and the city of Vancouver does fund all of that infrastructure?
Yeah, no, I think the active living goal is intended to capture significant components of parks planning and the significant work that happens within the park board, and it's intended to be an inclusive container, and so it's not to leave out the contributions of the park board by any stretch, and a memo will be into the park commissioners.
So
if
are we
council
taking
makes
a
a decision
step of
today.
asking the park board to sign onto this? Because this has been one of the challenges with respects to delivering the best possible service, is that we have two different bodies as opposed to, are we taking this step explicitly of endorsing one holistic strategy or asking for that to happen?
Thank you for the question. At this point, our intent would be to transmit it to Park Board, but certainly we can engage on further action along those lines. and they have been deeply involved in the development of this.
Okay, seems like an opportunity. The other question I have, which is really around, you mentioned the role of social grants, et cetera, and we know that affordability is an increasing pressure. So we just talked about one piece in terms of affordable recreation. Thinking of terms of proactive prevention, dealing with youth, you've mentioned some of the important work with neighborhood houses that support families or kids at risk, families who are challenged for resources. Are we envisioning that this would provide a lens for what we prioritize in our social grants allocation? So I'm thinking things like food policy grants, like youth programs and intervention. We did some work on the youth violence. It was referenced to Yo Bro, Yo Girl, that kind of thing, that we would start to shift our policy grants to more youth or preventative opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately council's decision how funding would shift. The goal of the strategy would be to create the framework for stronger measuring of impacts and contributions of the granting programs to health. And so the goal would be to provide information that could inform council making decisions like that.
Okay. Is there an intention to bring a piece of work around reviewing the priorities in the social grants program? I know that there has been some work underway, but I'm looking to kind of tie the pieces together more explicitly, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Sonia Bianchi, Social Policy Assistant Director. So related to the social grants program specifically, we already aligned to the goals of the Healthy City Strategy as it's in its original form, and you'll see specific to youth plans for future funding allocations as we wrap up the Building Safer Communities program later this spring.
Okay, I'll be interested to get more information on more work around proportionally if we're funding the things that we how much we're funding proportional areas. And then on the last thing of my last little bit of time, on the sort of annual report, there's some external metrics where we score well, for example, on other indices. What are we looking for a zeroed in focused report card? What kind of indicators are going to be in that report card?
Yeah, so I mean, the hope would be to cover the whole spectrum of both, direct focused metrics of the city's contributions, then to be able to link them to some of the broader outcomes. So it's assigning, I think, accountability, on the direct things that the city has control over, while also giving council the context of some of the larger trends that are occurring.
Okay, I'm at time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dominato.
Mayor, maybe I'll just carry on just with the theme of infrastructure that was raised by Councillor Kirby-Yung. And specifically, how do staff see this framework, because it's a high-level framework, informing the development of the next 4-year capital plan, because that's a key part of our work over the next 5 to 6 months, culminating in July? And or do you see it informing it in some way in terms of our priorities?
Thank you for the question. The Healthy City Strategy identifies a number of areas where the city has opportunity to shape health outcomes through our investment. And so that would be a lens that we would bring to the development of the capital plan. And so through collaboration with our colleagues in engineering, that helps to shape understanding of investment requirements for active transportation as an example, recognizing that this strategy does not call on net new investment. It's more about using this as a tool to prioritize the actions and investment that the city makes.
Okay, thanks for that. And so will it get down to, maybe I'll leave that question for now. Could we just, with the slides, going back to the slides, slide 16, with the benchmarking that was done, I'm just trying to find it right now. Are we looking at a score of 100? Is that just, could you speak to sort of the scoring there and what we're looking at? Because I don't have the slide in front of me right this moment, but it seemed there are some areas, I'm going to try to pull it up just so I can be clear on my question. Bear with me. It seems like there's some areas where we didn't score very high. I was a little surprised. I think one of them was housing, and there was a couple other areas that stood out, and if I could just pull it up. Could you just speak to that in terms of the initial scoring, and then I'll elaborate?
Yeah, for sure. So this is the outcome of the council-directed work with UN Habitat in 2023. And this particular indicator is Vancouver's measure against global benchmarks. And so 0 is lowest possible quality of life, 100 is highest. And so, yeah, housing stands out as an area where, there are This particular index includes both objective measures, for example, the cost of housing relative to incomes, which we know is a challenge, but then it also includes some of perceptions in residents who took part in this, in cities who took part in this program of housing. And Vancouver has quite a few challenges in people's perceived ability to find housing that meets their need. And it's not surprising, but it's reflected in indices like these.
Right. So some of the criterion was some tangible, looking at, like, just we'll take housing as in a case in point of, you're talking about, cost of living, affordability. Another is more lived experience of people's, lived experience of, you're saying, their perceptions regarding these areas. Okay. Because, I noted housing, economy, there's a number there. They're lower on. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. I'm curious if, and this is way more tactical as a question, but I am increasingly, and I've heard this before, and I've had a motion here at council, increasingly hearing concerns about the proliferation of vape shops. We don't have distancing requirements around them, and that they're serving minors. I've reported it to VPD where it's been raised with me, but is that something that we'll be looking at in terms of our regulatory context around some of these? I'm using it as an example because it's one that's been raised to me several times in recent weeks.
I don't have a granular answer, but Dr. Lusisha might.
BCH.
I mean, it is definitely an issue that we've observed as well, and our tobacco teams have done some mapping of where the vape shops cluster around transit, around schools, and things like that. And so it is a concern to us as well that we've raised to the province, and we're happy to work with the city on that too.
Okay, it's probably an offline kind of conversation. And then another question I have is, when you consider, again, case in point of looking at a healthy city in terms of like physical activity and wellness, like mental wellness, we often hear there's some of our community centers are oversubscribed, access to pools, access to swim lessons, things like that. Again, will this be something you'll be looking at as service delivery and models to help people achieve some of those goals around physical health and mental health?
Yeah, and I think maybe to pick up on one of Councillor Bly's questions too, I think there are important connections between all of the goals, and so physical activity, mental health are deeply connected, and so the goal in implementation would be to bring the strategies and infrastructure that exists and to start to develop indicators that we hope could inform.
I'm sorry, we're at time.
Thank you.
Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the presentation. And I'm trying to reconcile the dashboard, which appreciate the dashboard's there, but then reconcile it to categories that are in the presentation and the categories that are in the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Can you kind of walk me through where the dashboard lives in that context?
Yeah, so as currently published on the website, the dashboard reflects the previous Healthy City Strategy goals, and so if council makes a decision today to update, then that will follow suit. The example of the UN Quality of Life domains in the presentation is a related but different framework that we have done some work to map them together, and so the indicators behind the example that was shown to council today will eventually be mapped onto the Healthy City Strategy goals. And then the SDGs, we responded to council's motion in 2020 to look at the 17 goals of the UN Sustainable Development Framework. And the feedback that we received in engagement was to use them as a lens and draw on them, but to develop goals that reflect local priorities. And so the 12 goals that are recommended in the current council report are intended to be the Healthy City Strategy goals going forward, and we would map other frameworks such as the SDGs or the UN Quality of Life domains onto them.
Perfect. So the future dashboard will be more reflective of the categories that you presented in the thing. Now, how do we leverage this kind of information to inform our everyday decision making or council's regular decision making process, be it on a public hearing item or rezoning or a variety of things? Is that going to influence our decision making or have a lens applied to reports?
Yeah, I mean, the goal would be to kind of reestablish the Healthy City Strategy as one of the key sources of information and alignment that can be used across the organization. It's ultimately, council is going to weigh health and the data that's provided against any other consideration. So I can't speak to how it influences decision making necessarily. But the goal would be to provide more current and timely information on trends in each of these goals.
So we can expect cross-department kind of inclusion of some of these goals into the reports that we will receive, hopefully?
I mean, hopefully. That's
Is that something that could be a further direction maybe once we move forward on this?
Certainly, the goal is for the Healthy Cities strategy to aid decision-making, and through implementation, we'll figure out the best mechanisms for that. Certainly, one of them is the proposed annual report, which will provide a mechanism to understand how city actions kind of roll up to achievement of these overarching goals. So more to come.
I mean, not giving direction here, but I would love to see that incorporated into every kind of report we get, is just how does it reflect in our Healthy City strategy. Are we missing some of the key indicators around super vulnerable populations? I think Councillor Bly brought up the overdose prevention site that unfortunately has closed in the, I think, what is the third busiest OPS in British Columbia. What's our role in addressing those kind of issues?
Yeah, I think a couple of answers to that question. So one is, I mean, there is space in the both the current and the proposed framework for direct measures of mental health and substance use issues and the impacts of the toxic drug emergency, and our team produces the report the council receives, monitoring trends in overdoses and deaths, and so we're certainly taking that into account within the framework. But then I think a broader answer too is the intention, if the Healthy City strategy is successful, is that the sort of downstream mental health and substance use consequences of inequities in the determinants of health, reflect kind of bigger systems and opportunities to advance and promote health and build assets in Vancouver. And so in some ways, mental health, for example, is an outcome of all of the goals that are proposed in the strategy. And so it doesn't necessarily have a single container, but reflects, work across people's basic needs, community building, connection, sense of purpose, and tries to take a holistic view of that.
I think we're covering there.
Yeah. I just thought I would join in too. Yeah, as Peter said, the strategy is mostly about prevention. How do we kind of not get to where we need overdose prevention sites? But when we do need those interventions, we do work with the city on where they're going to be placed, and even in the context of this closure, we've been working closely with city staff to figure out temporary locations until we can get a new permanent location.
I'm sorry, we're at time. We're at 5 minutes. Thank you. Councillor Claassen.
Thanks very much, Mayor, and thank you, staff, for the presentation on this work. It's important work. I'm going to sort of fire through some questions so everybody be light on their feet. First question is very simple. Vancouver is a complex city, and the strategy reflects that. But was there any hard discussion around possibly simplifying the objectives and the goals of this strategy?
Some, and certainly, a lot of people respond to the strategy by sort of noting its scale and complexity. But what we found during the refresh engagement is that there isn't consensus about taking anything out. And so when we actually went out and tested different concepts, the feedback was to keep the breadth of goals that existed in the previous strategy and is carried forward. And so I think the challenge on the staff side is then to deliver implementation and monitoring in a way that's simpler and clearer than we've been able to before. And so that's
I realize that it would be hard if you ask the stakeholders who are affected. They're going to probably want to keep these items in, and so that decision is probably an internal one. But I'll just leave that there. Just with regards to our sort of aging demographics in the city, is very noteworthy, sort of seeing evidence of that right now. What specific capital or planning decisions will result from this strategy to better support our aging population?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're early to name specifics, but the conversations that have come out in other questions around how these goals and indicators can be used to inform granting decisions is an example. We certainly work very closely with Anthony and his work on the older person strategic framework, and so we'll be looking for opportunities to have the work support each other there. But yeah, in terms of specific capital projects, there's obviously a number of things in the works, such as the senior centers across the city. But we're kind of one step back of being able to say a specific deliverable that's going to come from
Thanks
here.
very much. Noting the community safety lens that this update lays out, how will the framework tangibly influence how the city prioritizes safety investments and particularly neighborhoods experiencing higher disorder, crime, and public safety concerns?
Yeah, so we would anticipate working, very closely with the police department to understand, the impacts of crime and public safety issues across the city. Ideally, we would also be bringing that together with health data, including some that we were able to collect last year on people's perceived safety across the city. And similar to some of the previous questions, this is a framework to inform decision making. So it will ultimately be up to council to respond. But the intention of the community safety goal would be to provide as complete a set of information as we can for council about differential experiences of safety across the city.
Okay, thanks very much. Just putting a little bit of an affordability lens on this, how does the strategy help council make decisions that improve outcomes while avoiding additional cost pressures on taxpayers and businesses?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's in some ways a question for council, but certainly as recommended in this report, there isn't the contemplation of new actions or investments. So the goal would be that, if council adopts the Healthy City Strategy as its social framework, then it's helping to define a clearer and maybe more refined scope of the city's contributions to health and well-being, enable prioritization, but not necessarily, and potentially to advocate or identify where senior government needs to step in for some of the larger systemic barriers to health and well-being in the city. But at this stage, it's not intended to increase the city's scope or expenditure.
Okay, thanks very much. I have just over a minute, so you can take the time. Can you point to 2 or 3 concrete decisions or investments over the next year where this refreshed framework will materially change outcomes compared to today?
Yeah, that's a big question, but I'll do my best at it. I mean, I think we're focused very much on sort of the process and the container building as staff. So the most immediate answer is to enable health to be a lens that's considered across more of the organization's policies and for that to be upheld. But I think some of the more concrete actions is there are a number of strategies in the works within social policy as well as opportunities to look at some of our frameworks. And I think I see Margaret.
Add some color to that?
Well, I think we've already heard some really great examples from council already. The upcoming capital plan, this will provide a framework for us to assess those decisions, as well as our granting programs will be an immediate feed-in. And so we know that has immediate impact for community as well.
Excellent. Thanks. That's my time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. Very important work for the residents of the city. So I'll start with my question about the indicators, the measurement outcomes. So I saw in the Appendix B and C, there are multiple times mentioned about, the indicators and measurement about the outcomes. So, but I didn't see any specific indicators. There's no specific target either. So I wonder why we are missing that specifics here.
Yeah, so it's a change in direction from the previous strategy. Is in 2014, the decision made by council included, at the time of adoption of the strategy, specific targets and indicators, including, things that were quite broad and ambitious in scope, such as reducing poverty or ending homelessness. This strategy is a little bit more pragmatic and is trying to create instead a framework by which targets and metrics from city strategies will be brought together into a common thread. And so we provided in the strategy document a few illustrative examples of indicators that we are currently measuring in terms of some of the broad health outcomes and some of the conversations we've had around aging population, income inequality, et cetera, show up in there. But the work ahead will be to bring together indicators and metrics that more directly reflect the city's contributions. But we need to have the container before we can fill that in.
Okay, so it'll be presented to council in the future.
Yeah, that's the goal of the annual reporting cycle.
Thank you. So also the healthy city strategy started in 2014. I'm assuming we should be able to see a trend in the past more than 10 years. So that will be part of the indicators as well, right?
Yep. And yeah, if council requests, we can also provide information on the previous strategy on demand as well.
Okay, thank you. So another specific question. So, healthy city is not only about public health, so many different areas. So I know some other city, not in Canada, they are trying to encourage their residents to do more exercise, provide some incentive, like maybe some even, I don't know, some discount for parking or for some tax. Are those innovative methods are we think about to encourage our people to enjoy the nature environment in the city and do more exercise?
Yeah, totally. I think there's significant opportunities, especially across the park board or the library to kind of promote healthy behaviors and choices that people can make. I think there is an important consideration that in most cases, as alluded to in some of the previous questions, those individual choices are heavily influenced by some broader systems of inequity, and so I want to be careful not necessarily to make the healthy city strategy just about people's individual choices, but certainly that can make a huge impact, and there's lots of opportunities for programs to promote health behavior and healthy choices.
Okay, we are thinking about those specific programs. Okay, great. So the other question is, Vancouver Coastal Health does amazing work to the community for sure. So, but there's another very important health authority in Vancouver, which provides regional health services to children's, women's, patients with cancer, Provincial Health Services Authority, PHSA. Why they are not part of this conversation?
Vancouver Coastal Health as a health authority works closely with PHSA, with Providence Healthcare in kind of administering health care services. But the responsibility to kind of shape the determinants of health falls under the Public Health Act to medical health officers. And the medical health officers of the region are employed by Vancouver Coastal Health, but we also serve the Cancer Center, Children's Hospital, Providence. We're also their medical health officers. And so just like we advise local governments on public health matters, we also advise health boards. And so we advise them on those issues too. But we also partner with them on healthcare services.
So when it comes to the specific program, we do have those conversations with different partners. Okay, good, thank you. My last question is, I saw there are different strategy for the city. This healthy city strategy, we have a housing strategy, accessibility strategy from different departments. So when we make this strategy, do we do any coordination between each department? So make sure that strategy all aligned.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the work ahead, and part of the reason to one of the earlier questions is as well why people see value in the healthy city strategy as a fairly comprehensive framework, is that it is intended to be an alignment tool, and so it is. There's certainly lots of work ahead to kind of work through the volume of strategies that exist at the City of Vancouver, but the goal is to use this as a tool to bring some greater structure and alignment to it.
Okay, so when we make this strategy, we do have coordination and communication with all different departments. Make sure there's no silos in those strategy.
Yep, and the engagement process included quite significant internal engagement and working with the folks who are leading all of those strategies as well. And so
I'm sorry, we're out of time as well.
That's all.
Councillor Orr.
Thank you. Thanks for the report, and thanks to my colleagues for asking a lot of excellent questions around this. I'm getting a sort of sense that, we're going to hear a lot of reporting back and things like that. And this is very high level. There's a lot of broad. There's more work ahead, things like that. But just comparing it, to the previous Healthy City Strategy report, it seemed to be like some pretty hard numbers, especially around, like, let's say reduce city's poverty rate by 75%, or all residents are attached to a family doctor, or over 50% of trips are by bike and transit. Increased sense of belonging by 10%. That's kind of a weird metric. 80% of children developmentally ready for school. Increased voter turnout, things like that. I don't see a lot of those sort of hard targets. Is that something that will be coming?
Yeah, it'll ultimately be for council to decide, but that is a change in this generation of the strategy. Is previously targets such as the ones you've listed were intended to be kind of whole of society targets, and the city would adopt them, but recognize that it would take contributions from all different sectors to get there, poverty reduction being a great example. And for this strategy, some of the feedback that we heard in the engagement and the scope that was given to council was a bit of a tighter focus on what the city can do. And so the goal will be that there are targets. So, for example, mode share is something that the city has a lot of more direct influence in, and there are targets in the climate emergency plan already. And so those could be brought forward as existing targets, but some of the broader societal change that needs to happen, we're not at this stage attaching hard numbers to.
Okay, thanks. Having a problem with my computer here. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so like, for example, in 2014, there was, end street homelessness. I didn't realize that was probably, also like a political sort of council direction. But in terms of that, like, it said by 2021, enable 2,000 units of supportive housing, 5,000 social housing, 5,000 units of secured rental, which I'm pretty sure we're working on that one. But is there a way to report on effects of council decisions in a negative way, like sort of like, say I'm thinking of like pausing supportive housing and including that in a future report?
Thank you for the question. What we envision as part of the annual reporting process is that for the elements that are within city jurisdiction, we would be able to bring forward specific targets and indicators relative to our progress. And so that is work to come. And so for things like transportation, housing, things that are more specifically kind of Vancouver municipal role focused, that work would be forthcoming.
Thank you for that. And then I think there's probably a lot of things you could comb through and find that's not here. I mean, the toxic drug supply is only mentioned once in passing. COVID, I know there's a lot of people struggling with long COVID and things like that. And one thing I noticed that kind of maybe it's just because it's relevant to today, but what about expansion of gambling in terms of having a healthy city and not encouraging sort of an expansion in gambling and addictions to gambling?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of the both COVID-19 and toxic drug health emergencies, I think the framework is intended to again kind of draw us upstream to what prevents the inequities that are experienced in the first place. But it is definitely an important part of the context that we're in and what the city has seen for the past now 10 years is this ongoing state of health emergency that is top of mind. In terms of gaming, I mean, again, as a high level framework, the strategy directly won't offer a recommendation on that, but certainly the health authority is actively engaged and will provide a public health perspective. If and when council advances that work forward.
Okay, thanks. And I don't have a lot of time. Just there's a lot of talk about equity, and it just seems kind of like across the board. It doesn't seem like equity in the sense of lifting other groups up and actually prioritizing unhealthy people. It just kind of seems maybe that's not a question. Sorry. I'll leave it there then. I think I'm out of time, anyways.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maloney.
I'm interested to know how the budget cuts are going to affect the speed of implementation.
Thank you. So the strategy proposes advancing priorities within existing work programs. And so in the implementation work related to the budget is still underway, but we would envision that there is kind of a lot of actions already identified within work programs that would continue to advance the overarching goals of the strategy without being able to say specifically, whether or not it's affected by the 2026 budget.
So it really just depends on how much each department's budget's been cut and which staff are lost.
Well, we do know that the Healthy City Strategy draws on existing actions that are planned to move ahead, and so it would be really about aligning those underneath the strategy.
Okay, thanks very much. I'd also like to hear about the relative priority given to active lifestyle and kind of 15-minute city type issues in avoiding sedentary lifestyles and making sure that we maximise people's chance of using like having incidental exercise like walkability of neighbourhoods and how we're prioritising that. Otherwise, we're sort of relying on people driving to the gym, which is
Yeah.
I don't do that, so.
Yeah, I think that intention is most clearly laid out in the complete neighborhoods goal, and you know the I think connection will become more explicit over time. But you know, for example, if council adopts that goal in this strategy, and then later today refers the ODP, then there's going to be significant work that happens across the city to build communities that have walkable amenities in close proximity. And you know, to Councillor Orr's earlier question, you know, there was a target in the previous strategy around making every neighborhood walkable, and again, we haven't put a number to that in this generation, but that intention is certainly still there. And so, yeah, everyday activity, the way that spaces and streets and neighborhoods are designed is a really important part of that.
And in terms of accessibility, I know that Councillor Klassen raised focus on seniors, but also, you know, I've got a motion coming up tomorrow about transit accessibility during snow events, for example. How are we lifting the amount of priority placed on accessibility in this iteration, in this review?
Yeah, that's the intention, and you know, the framework that we've laid out in the recommendations puts an accessibility lens on all the goals. You know, figuring out, again, to some of the earlier questions, you know, the first stage is information, then it'll be up to council to make decisions about the relative level of effort and resourcing. But certainly we've drawn on the accessibility strategy and worked very closely with the team behind that to try to infuse that perspective into all parts of this generation of the strategy.
Okay, and in terms of communicating progress, we've had a couple of good questions about that. I know I was lucky enough to visit Paris a year and a half ago, and they've got kind of a croissant index for how close people live to bakeries, and that's something that they measure on year over year. Have you got an equivalent for Vancouver? Like, I don't know, proximity to Tim Hortons or something?
Yeah, nothing that fun, but
something better than that. But
yeah, but definitely, and I think you know, drawing on examples from other cities of how indicators are mapped spatially is a huge part of our work in the previous strategy, and that will continue with this one. We've been through, you know, within this strategy, within the Vancouver plan, within the climate work, there's a bit of a cross-team effort happening to define and map daily needs across Vancouver. That's you know, very aligned with that example. And so if we're successful, there'll be more to share on that in the future.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're now going to hear from registered speakers to this report. Public speakers should state whether they are in support or opposition of the recommendations and may only speak once. I will also ask speakers if they are residents of Vancouver, if it's not so noted on the speakers list. Please note that there is a new podium that's installed for public speakers on the left-hand side of the public gallery, or to my right. Public speakers should adjust the podium to a comfortable height for speaking into the microphone. Our first public speaker is our public body representative speakers list. On our public body representative speakers list is Jordan Baltitude, acting co-chair of the Vancouver Food Policy Council.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Jordan Baltitude. I'm a resident of Vancouver and acting co-chair of the Vancouver Food Policy Council. I'm here today to deliver a statement on behalf of the VFPC in support of Council's adoption of the refresh update to the Healthy City Strategy, including the commitment to strengthen implementation and public reporting. The VFPC particularly welcomes the strategy's clear recognition that food is a basic human right and a critical determinant of health, grounded in an understanding that Vancouver sits on lands and waters that have sustained communities since time immemorial, and that many residents still face barriers to healthy, affordable, and culturally appropriate food. We strongly support the updated food systems goals focus on a just food system, one that addresses food insecurity, strengthens networks, respects cultural and ecological diversity, and ensures food environments reflect all communities. The VFPC also appreciates that the strategy names concrete ways the city contributes to food systems work, through community engagement and knowledge building, enabling food assets such as markets and community gardens, embedding food security into land use planning and policies, supporting Indigenous food sovereignty, integrating food security into emergency preparedness, and developing regulations that prevent food waste. We welcome the strategy's emphasis on partnering with and supporting community serving and Indigenous-led organizations through funding and collaboration as part of a strong social infrastructure approach. Finally, the VFPC strongly supports establishing an annual update cycle beginning in 2027 and the strategy's broader commitment to regular reporting to Council and the community. For community food justice organizations, an annual reporting cycle can strengthen transparency, align efforts across partners, and support evidence-informed decisions and program development by tracking both outcomes and the city's contributions over time. The VFPC looks forward to working with Council and city staff to help ensure these shared goals are matched with the resources needed to achieve them. As this reporting cycle is established, the VFPC encourages clearly linking priorities to actions and resources, so Council and the public can see what is being implemented and how progress is being supported through budgeting and other decision-making processes. In closing, the VFPC supports Council's approval of this updated Healthy City strategy and looks forward to partnering on implementation to advance a healthier, more equitable Vancouver. Signed, the Vancouver Food Policy Council.
Thank you very much. Now, our regular speakers list, the non-public body speakers list, is speaker number 1, Christine Binder.
Good morning, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Christine Binder, and I flew in from New York for this meeting today to represent the Partnership for Healthy Cities. I'm not a Vancouver resident, and I cannot state opposition or support because of the nonprofit status of my organization, but I can provide some information. Partnership for Healthy Cities is a global network of more than 70 cities committed to saving lives by reducing the prevalence of non-communicable diseases and injuries. And our initiative is a collaboration between the World Health Organization, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and my organization, Vital Strategies. A major focus of our work is supporting cities to strengthen public health surveillance systems because timely and accurate data helps cities identify inequities, set clear goals, and act on a framework that allows for greatest impact. So as you probably know, Vancouver joined the Partnership for Healthy Cities in 2019 and has really been a star example of how cities can use data on social determinants of health to inform strategy and strengthen alignment across government and other sectors. So through this partnership, we supported the development of the Healthy City Dashboard, particularly the expansion to show indicators by neighborhood and other demographic categories. And this dashboard supports transparency and allows residents, community partners, and decision makers like yourselves to track trends and disparities across the city over time. I also want to highlight that community engagement has been a core feature of this work. And in 2023 and 2024, we supported the City of Vancouver to collaborate with the Metro Vancouver Aboriginal Executive Council to identify health indicators that matter most to urban Indigenous communities and to agree on how that data should be collected, used, and governed. And so this is an approach that ensures that well-being is measured in inclusive ways that communities both recognize and trust. And then I'm excited, you might know this as well, but in March 2023, the city received the inaugural Partnership for Healthy Cities Award for its outstanding efforts to prevent non-communicable diseases and injuries. And this award recognized Vancouver's strong use of data to advance equity-focused public health action, including its work on the Healthy City Dashboard. So I hope that you're proud to know that Vancouver is internationally recognized as a model for cities across the globe who are developing similar initiatives. At its core, public health surveillance is not just about information, but about creating a shared foundation and a framework for strategy, collaboration, and a health in all policies approach. So I just wanted to say thank you for your time and your commitment to making Vancouver a healthy city.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming all the way from New York. Okay, speaker number 2, Michaela. Is Michaela here?
Speaker 2 is not present.
And so that is the end of our speakers list. And so once again, thank you very much for coming in to speak to council. Would someone like to move a motion? Right, I think it was Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Klassen. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing no one in the queue. Give it another second. No? Okay. I'm now going to call the vote. If we can please all go to the voting panel, and Council, if you can register your vote. Great, and that passes unanimously. Great, and that completes report number 1, and thank you for all of the incredible work you've been doing on that file. Great. Okay, so we are going to go to the referral reports now. The first one is number 1, City of Vancouver Official Development Plan. Before we begin, does anyone in council think they have a conflict they have to declare? All right, seeing none. This item does not have a presentation. Councillor Dominato, you held this item. You have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of our team members.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. I just have a couple of procedural questions. The first one being, given this is a referral of the draft ODP, and we don't currently have one in the city, and so it's a lot of substantive work has gone into it, a number of years of work. I'm just curious if the public hearing process looks any different than a typical or regular public hearing, if staff could address that question first.
Good morning, Lil Ronald, Senior Planner sorry, I don't know if I can. Thank you. Senior Planner with Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability. Thanks for the question. The process for the public hearing will look the same as it would for a rezoning.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, again, given the substance of what's coming forward, citywide in scope, do we do any additional advertising to notify the public that it's coming forward? Because again, it's not as simple as one site where you walk by a development sign and you see it's coming up. I'm just curious if we do anything more to alert the public so they can participate or weigh in.
Thanks for the question. We will be expanding what is required under the legislation, which would be the same as for rezoning, but we will be expanding that to include social media notifications as well as an update on our Shape Your City and webpage as well.
Okay, yeah, I was curious about the use of social media just to, make people aware.
Yeah.
Because I think there is, again, the public did weigh in the development of the Vancouver plan and that planning process, but I think people are still interested, and we're in, 4 years later, and it's quite substantive. So I'm glad to hear there'll be some additional advertising. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. Is there a seconder? Councillor Joe, thank you. I'm now going to call. Hold on a second. Reminder to any council member participating virtually that whose video is disabled will be marked absent for the vote pursuant to section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw. I'm now going to call the vote. And Councillor, great, thank you very much, and that passes unanimously. Okay, the next item is number 5, CD-1-519, Text Amendment and Gaming Control Act Approval, 39 through 65 Smythe Street. Before we begin, thank you. If anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? No, great. This item does not have a presentation. Councillor Orr, you held this item, so you have up to 5 minutes to ask team questions.
Yeah, my question is on what consultation was done, and just noting essentially on Appendix A of the moratorium reads, and that this moratorium shall be in effect until such times or as blah, 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 undertakes a comprehensive public consultation on the issue of expanded gambling, and the results of this consultation are deliberated by City Council. And I just wanted to know what consultation was done.
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Susanna Rule, I'm the rezoning planner for this item, and I have members of ACCS and law here too to answer further questions. We've done the public consultation that we usually do for any public hearing. So the public was notified, and we also included the Gaming Control Act regulations notification in that. There was a Q&A period. We got 37 submissions back. Then we also had The Gaming Control Act asks us to notify all municipalities and nations around 5 kilometers around the location. We did that too and didn't receive any comments back. And then for our own analysis, we did stakeholder analysis too. So we reached out to the BPD, VCH, and other stakeholders that are concerned with gambling and asked them about that too.
Okay, so you did the regular amount, then you did a notice
Additional
to
amounts, yeah.
surrounding communities, nations, I heard, and as well as stakeholders. So you went sort of above and beyond, and you would consider this comprehensive.
We would consider this
Okay,
comprehensive.
thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Joe, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Klassen, thank you. Council, is there any discussion? Seeing none, reminder that any council member participating virtually whose video is disabled will be marked absent for the vote pursuant to section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw. I'm now going to call the vote, and if everyone can register their vote, that would be great. Councillor Bly is absent. Great. Okay, that passes unanimously with Councillor Bly absent. All right. Okay. Thank you. The next item is item number 16, CD-1 rezoning 2028 through 2038 Barclay Street. Before we begin, thank you. Are there any councillors who believe that they may have a conflict that they want to disclose? Okay, seeing none, this item does not have a presentation. Councillor Kirby-Young, you held this item. You have up to 5 minutes to ask questions of team members.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. And just prefacing this, because I know there's been a lot of correspondence from the community, and community, I think, had thought that council would be debating this today, but understands this is an administrative step and that the substantive debate happens at the public hearing if this referral goes ahead. But I have a couple of procedural questions that we have received, and one sort of respects or alleges sort of flawed public process, and specifically references the cancellation of an open house on October 8th and suggests there are exigent circumstances. I wonder if you can speak to that and any measures that are taken to provide similar in-person opportunities for folks as to, was it sort of legitimate, if you will, that the October 8th open house was canceled? What other efforts are made to fulfill that component?
Thank you for the question. Casey Peters, Assistant Director with the Rezoning Center. So staff did begin preparing for an open house in early October. Through the Shape Your City consultation that we did online, we did receive some inappropriate feedback. This was forwarded to City Protective Services and the Vancouver Police Department, and was also discussed with the applicant team. They hired a security consultant to review the risk, who advised, and they shared this with us, that based on the severity and number of directed emails and social media postings around this event, holding it as an in-person open house under these conditions would present a significant threat to the safety of attendees, staff, and the public. So the applicant team was not prepared to participate in a kind of standard open house that we would often see. They did choose to engage in a number of other engagement opportunities, and that's summarized in the Appendix E of the report.
Okay, and given those circumstances, does staff feel that we've satisfied the sort of the bar for public engagement?
Certainly, it met our standard practice of hosting that online Q&A, and I would say that the applicant did kind of go above and beyond that expectation through their efforts.
Okay, that's obviously very distressing to hear. The other question that's come up was cited, and these are words that I've received, so I'm sort of quoting them, was operational deficiencies identified by engineering, suggesting the report states that engineering does not support the proposed relaxation for passenger and delivery loading spaces and requirements, and that this particular street and lane could not accommodate that. Can you comment on that procedurally, if engineering support required, or if engineering is saying they do not support it, why this would proceed?
Yeah, engineering has reviewed this as part of our standard practice and have included standard conditions in Appendix B. They have certainly not advised us that this cannot proceed. There are items that will need further attention should the project be approved at the DP stage.
Okay, and so it would be appropriate for council to discuss what measures are recommended or any additional steps in the public hearing, not in this.
Absolutely, and we will make sure to have appropriate staff attend that hearing to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks. Oh, actually, can I ask one other question? And maybe this is a procedural. Can you just suggest which, I just want to clarify which existing policies this meets that it's coming in under? Because there's also a further suggestion from community that this does not meet the West End policy.
Yes, this project is coming in under the hotel development policy from 2025. And it does contemplate redevelopment of sites that have an existing hotel on them, which this does.
Okay. And so, okay. And then, and is the allowable height different in that policy relative to what would be allowed if this was not commercial and this was a rental project?
Correct. The West End plan does not anticipate additional residential heights and densities on this site. So if this were proposed as a residential building, it would not have a path under the West End plan, but does have a path because it's existing hotel under that new hotel policy.
Thank you. That's clear procedurally. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Orr.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Kirby-Young asked all three of my questions. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Clausen.
Thanks very much. Just to the clerk, so I'm clear, I know we weren't able to show presentations, but our camera's not working now. Is that correct?
Cameras are operational.
Oh, okay. I just see the big orange screen behind you. So that's
Just to display the voting screen.
okay. Very good. Thanks. I just have a question to staff regarding the referral report, and just to reiterate something that Councillor Kirby-Young already said. This is a referral to public hearing. There's no debate and decision on this item. Just there has been a lot of communication coming in that has not made that clear. The referral report apparently relies on a 25-story resubmission, but the question I've received from the public is that the 25-story resubmission was never made public. The versions that have been publicly shared to date are the 29-story proposal from July 31st, 2024, and the 27-story proposal from May 15th, 2025. The 25-story version referenced in a report was submitted by the proponent on December 23rd, 2025, but does not appear to have been publicly disclosed. Is that your understanding?
My understanding is that the height reduction was the result of conversations with the applicant, but not the result of a set of drawings that were submitted. So that is in response to feedback that was received both through the public and staff. So we don't have drawings to publish.
Okay. So the question that would follow that is are we obligated to make sure that that is available publicly, that new rendering?
No, I would say that should council elect to move this to the public hearing stage, what you would be voting on is the bylaw and the conditions. You're not voting on a drawing package at that time. So if there were concerns about the height and density, certainly that's an appropriate conversation to have at the public hearing stage. And that at the development permit stage, should this get to that stage, that would be the time where drawings would be made available that reflected the project.
Great. Okay. That sort of clears up the procedure for me. Thanks very much. Okay. Thanks very much, Mayor. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. And so just looking at the time, does a council member maybe want to move a motion to extend to complete the business of the meeting? Councillor Dominato, seconded by, sorry, I didn't hear that, Councillor Kirby-Young. Any discussion? All in favor? Say yay. All opposed say nay. Great, we will extend to complete the business. Councillor Fry.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Mayor, point of privilege, I was out of the room when the items were being pulled, and I was hoping to pull item 14 from the referral if it's not too late.
We've already passed that.
Was it already passed? Okay.
And we already passed it on consent. Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. With that, would someone like to move a motion? Great. Councillor Clausen, seconded by Councillor Dominato. Council, is there any discussion? If we can please go to the voting panel. That's right. And that passes unanimously, and that completes referral report number 16. Okay. So now we have bylaws. We have 31 bylaws on the agenda for enactment. Before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to disclose it. Thank you, everyone. Seeing no one in the queue, council members who were absent for the meetings related to public hearing enactment bylaws must confirm that they have reviewed the proceedings of the meetings, including the video clip, to be eligible to vote. Bylaw number 1 was from the public hearing on July the 10th, 2025. Councillor Montague was absent this item at public hearing. Councillor Montague, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment?
I have and I will.
Great, thank you. Bylaw number 2 was from the public hearing on March the 10th, 2025. Councillor Clausen and myself were absent for this item at the public hearing. Councillor Clausen, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment? Great, thank you. I have not and I will not. Bylaws 7, 8, 10, and 15 were from the public hearing on December the 9th, 11th, and 16th, 2025. Councillors Kirby Young and Montague were absent for this item at the public hearing. Councillor Kirby Young, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment? She just left. Councillor Montague.
I have and I will.
Thank you. Bylaw 26 was from the public hearing on January the 22nd and 27th, 2026. Councillor Bly was absent for this item at the public hearing. Councillor Bly, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment? Thank you. Bylaws 29, 30, and 31 were from the public hearing on January the 20th, 22nd, and 26th, 2026. Councillor Fry was absent for this item at the public hearing. Councillor Fry, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment?
I have not and I will not.
Would someone like to move a motion to adopt bylaws 1 through 31? Great, thank Councillor Bly, seconded by Councillor Meisner. Council, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say yay. All those opposed say nay. Great, the motion carries unanimously. The list of approved bylaws can be found on the city's website. Okay, and then Councillor, yeah, great.
Okay, thanks, Council. Just resume here. We are on to item 15, administrative motions, miscellaneous amendments, various land use documents. Before we begin this agenda item, if anyone believes they have a conflict of interest, now is the time to declare it. Does anyone have a conflict on this item? Hearing none, are there any questions? Seeing none, can I get a mover? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. That completes admin motion number 1. We are now moving on to Rupert and Renfrew Station Area Plan Implementation, City-initiated amendments to the Zoning and Development Bylaw and Building Bylaw. Again, do members have a conflict? Please declare it now if you do. Hearing none, are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, could I get someone to move it? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. We are now on to Downtown Eastside Housing Implementation Amendments to the FC1 District in the Zoning and Development Bylaw and the Downtown Eastside Oppenheimer District Official Development Plan Bylaw to accelerate SRO replacement and increase social housing. Do members have any conflict of interest to declare? Hearing none. Any questions to staff? Moved. Seconded. Any discussion? Up, and the recorded vote has been called, so please vote on screen. I'll take a vote assist in favor, please. Thank you, Council. That passes with Councillor Bly, Councillor Fry, and Councillor Orr in opposition. Thank you. That concludes this item. We are now on to notice of council member motions. Are there any notices of council member motions for upcoming standing committee meetings? Councillor Bly.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have two notice of motions for standing committee meeting on February 25th. The first is Meet the Moment, FIFA Public Safety and Local Readiness Working Group. And the second is for the same date. The second is reversing the costly ban on supportive housing.
Okay.
I've just hit, just take a second to come through.
Thank you, Councillor Bly. Okay, those have been noted. Thank you for those. Councillor Montague.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's a notice of motion for the Standing Committee, February 25th, 2026, title Strengthening Public Safety Infrastructure. It's moved by myself.
Thank you, Councillor Montague. Councillor Maloney.
Two notices of motion for the Standing Committee meeting on the 25th February 2026. Number one, walking the talk, aligning city staff's and council's remote work policy. Second, promoting respectful interactions with bylaw enforcement officers.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maloney. And those are both for February 25th?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Orr.
Yeah, notice of motion for standing committee, February 25th. Recommitting to $10 a day childcare.
Sorry, could you just clarify that for the clerks and for myself?
Recommitting to $10 a day childcare.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, and then if you could email it to the clerks as well with the date. Thank you. Councillor Fry, go ahead.
Yeah, notice on motion for February 25th Standing Committee, co-submitted with Councillor Orr, ice out of the beautiful game and Vancouver's World Cup.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. And if you could submit that in writing as well.
Done.
I've added myself to the queue as well. I've also advancing a motion for the February 25th Standing Committee entitled Reviewing the Truck Route Network in Vancouver. And I think that concludes all our notice of motions for the next meeting. So we will move on to new business. We have one item of new business on the agenda, and that is requests for leaves of absence. This has been circulated in writing to council. Would someone like to move the motion? Moved. Seconder? Seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Or sorry, do you guys want to, does anyone want to look at it? Oh, we can't look at it on screen, so just look in your email. All in favor? Okay, I think that carries. I didn't see any hands, but I think that is carried. Are there any other items of new business anyone wishes to bring up? No? Okay. We are now moving to inquiries and other matters. Please put yourself on the queue. Sorry, can the clerks just take me off and I'll advance Councillor Maloney. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Maloney.
Thanks. I want to request a detailed list of additional measures that are being taken to ensure traffic safety for cyclists, pedestrians and other street users outside cars on side streets around the closure of Broadway at Main Street for the road reconstruction, including timelines, please.
Okay. And are you requesting that of the city manager's office?
Yes, please.
Okay. And in memo? Would you like a memo back?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to give a shout out to the Chinese Canadian Museum, who was just named the best museum space in Canada as part of a national recognition. So that's pretty exciting to have that right in our own backyard and just ahead of Lunar New Year celebrations that are coming up. And they won, that was at the Canadian Venue Awards for Best Museum or Gallery Space. So we have a lot of great organizations doing a lot of things in our own backyard. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, as well as Industrial Light Magic, who apparently worked on 5 of the blockbuster films that are on the nominee list and are here right in our own city, for the upcoming Oscars in March. And so it is pretty phenomenal to see a lot of our arts and culture sector and creative industries being recognized. And I just thought that they deserved a little moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Some positive news there. Thank you. Councillor Orr, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. For the city managers, I was wondering similarly if I can get a memo regarding some things that happened in the news. I think we've received a few emails about it around Hornby Street. Another vehicle has left the street and entered the sidewalk area, and I would like to get a memo around the feasibility of bollards in that particular section. That would be great. And then also, there's another thing that we're receiving emails about is sort of the bus lane changes on Hastings. I can't recall if there's a briefing, if we've had a briefing on that, and I would request a briefing just to properly sort of communicate to small businesses the effects of removing the parking there. That's everything. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'll advance Councillor Claassen.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to give a shout out to the teams at the P&E, the Vancouver Golden Eyes hockey team, PWHL team has been a huge success. And one of the conditions of their coming in and having games at the Pacific Coliseum was to establish a training ice space at the Agrodome. A lot of us will remember the Agrodome as a really iconic space. Many concerts took place over the years. Of course, it's been a centerpiece of a lot of the agricultural programming, but a major renovation took place last summer and fall with new ice and the interior of the facility and new lighting, and the place just looks spectacular. And the P&E teams have a lot going on with getting ready for the launch of the new Freedom Mobile Arch Amphitheater in May, and it's really exciting to see what's happening there. And I want to just acknowledge the hard work of those teams under a lot of pressure to deliver, and it's an exciting new development to see what's happened at the Agrodome in particular. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Claassen, for those updates. I'm going to advance myself. I have a handful of inquiries for the City Manager's Office. The first one is if we could get an update with respect to some interim measures to deal with the intersection at Main and Kingsway. It's a marked crosswalk, but beyond that, there's no lights or any pedestrian controlled opportunities there. And I went down to visit the site the other day. It is quite treacherous, and particularly now we have more traffic moving through there with some of the temporary closures along Broadway. So I'd welcome potentially a report back from staff engineering if there's anything that we can do on a temporary basis to increase and improve visibility. The second request I'm looking for is an update on the Railtown planning exercise. I've had some inquiries from the Japanese Canadian community about how they may participate and be engaged there, so I'll be interested in an update as well. Finally, also seeking an update on the reopening of the Trans-Canada Trail portion in northeast Vancouver near the Cassiar. It's now been closed for over 2.5 years, and I have asked for a number of updates. I've been in touch with CN, and I understood that we are at a stage of some legal contract agreements that need to be fulfilled, but I am interested in an update, and I think the public is as well on that. So welcome that. And then I am, if council will give me the grace, I do, it's on a bit of a sadder note, I do want to acknowledge the passing of Laura Kumi Saimoto. And I'm going to read her bio because I think it's really important to give her some acknowledgement here in council chambers. Laura has been a very integral member of the Japanese Canadian community, contributed heavily to city planning. And I attended her service yesterday morning. Laura was born on May 15th, 1970 in North Vancouver. She attended Point Grey Secondary School and later graduated from UBC in 1993 with a double major in history and Japanese. In 1994, she completed her teacher's degree in piano from the Royal Conservatory of Music. In 1995, on the Mombusho Scholarship from the Japanese Ministry of Education, Laura moved to Tokyo to attend Sophia University, where she completed her master's degree in sociology in 1998. She went on to work in Tokyo as a market researcher for AC Nielsen and later as a brand manager for Seba Vision. Laura returned to Vancouver in 2005 and joined the family business Great West Paper Box. At the same time, she was recruited to join the board of the Vancouver Japanese Language School and Japanese Hall, an organization that became a significant part of her life and heart. While working in the box business, Laura dedicated countless hours to the Vancouver Japanese Language School. She began planning the Heritage Building renovation project and was instrumental in the opening of the Children's World Child Care Center in 2012. After selling the family business and retiring, in quotes, in 2017, Laura became a natural and passionate leader in serving and strengthening the Japanese Canadian community. She spearheaded many important projects. She chaired the Japanese Canadian Legacy Signage Project from 2016 to 2018, working with the Ministry of Transportation to commemorate internment and road camps across British Columbia. She also deeply loved working with seniors and local residents to create the East Lillooet Internment Camp Memorial Garden. Laura served as president of the Tashmi Historical Society from 2023 and joined the board of the Vancouver Heritage Foundation in 2024. Her most recent projects included the Vancouver Japanese Language School Interpretive Center, as well as the restorations of Miyazaki House and Hope Station. Laura was a champion of community and loved bringing people together. She was gifted in making connections, forging pathways, and building community wherever she went. She was profoundly grateful to have awakened to her sole purpose of service. She heard her calling. Through sharing our history and inner light, we heal and shine our light brighter, making the world a brighter and more loving place. She answered the call. Laura's final call was a peaceful crossing on January 20th, 2026. She was most grateful for all the love and prayers she received. She will be remembered for her vivacious energy, high standards, and deep commitment. And I will say, attending the service, it was definitely reflected. Her request was, it was held at the Buddhist temple in Strathcona. Her request was that everyone wear pink or very bright colors and fascinators. And the stories that were shared there really reflected her immense passion and energy for leaving the city and her community in a better place. And I can absolutely attest to that. She was a fireball. She was relentless and tenacious and contributed a lot in terms of the Vancouver plan and the work that we did last term. And so I just wanted to acknowledge her passing. And there was a wonderful celebration in her honor yesterday. So thank you for indulging me, Council. I will move to advance Councillor Kirby-Young.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I do have two further inquiries, and one is with respects to the ongoing sort of media coverage about the woes of the Vancouver Whitecaps in their current agreement. I know that we did release publicly that we're undertaking conversations and have up to a year with respects to securing a permanent home for the Whitecaps. I'm wondering, and I appreciate it might be in camera, if Council can get an update back on how those conversations and talks are going. Obviously, it's a beloved team. They have risen in exceptional kind of engagement with community since Messi came on. But can we get an update on how those conversations are progressing? Okay, thank you. And then also my other one is with respect to something that was raised earlier by one of my colleagues, and that was with respects to vape stores. I'm hearing a lot of concern from a lot of BIAs that they're having 2 or 3 literally in the same block or opposite each other, and there are just dozens of them proliferating. I'm wondering if our regulatory department is receiving similar requests, and if we can get some sense of how many concerns are being raised, and if our licensing department is looking at the vape store category.
Yeah, I think we'll get a report back on that as well. Yeah.
Okay, super. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good questions. With that, could I get a motion to adjourn, please? Moved, seconded, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Thanks, Council. We'll resume in Cascadia at 1 o'clock.